Hey, and welcome back to Thursday Night Live here on Soaring Profits. Once again, we have a very wonderful, inspiring special guest, the great Rhonda Marie Park. She lives in Kitchener, Ontario. She is legally blind, a registered massage therapist, and a disability sports advocate. As a retired ultra runner, Rhonda Marie seeks ways to encourage the world to be inclusive of all people in sport. Her participation in ultra trail races in the past includes optimistic attempts at the Barkley Marathons, Ball State, Boston Marathon, and many more. She's run end to end on the Bruce Trail in 20 days with the help of 50 guide runners. Creating community and conversation around disability is always Rhonda Marie's goal. Rhonda Marie, I just want to welcome you and thank you for coming on our show. I am very excited. I've kind of dug into your past, and I know that you're not an ultra runner right now, but back then you were, and running the whole Bruce Trail from Tobermory all the way down, I think, to Niagara Falls. It's past Niagara Falls, maybe, is an incredible feat. I've ran a little bit, but I've never run that far. And to orchestrate 50 guide runners, I'm looking forward to this conversation and see how all that works. I understand now that you're more of a swimmer and you do some other things and you kind of stop that whole ultra running, which I get. It's a lot. But let's go back to when you were an ultra runner, because like that is pretty impressive. I wonder why or what motivated you back then to become an ultra runner. Because like it's such a lofty goal, especially someone who is legally blind.
The easiest and most basic answer to that is because people told me I couldn't.
I love it.
Right.
With disability, there's a lot of barriers. There's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of, oh, if only you could. Isn't it too bad that you can't? And I'm kind of stubborn. So my easiest answer is because people told me I couldn't.
That's incredible, and what a great reason to do it. But like, so from Tobermory, which if you're not from Ontario, you may not know this, but it is a long way away from where we are right now, all the way to, is it Niagara Falls you ran to?
In St. Catharines, yeah.
St. Catharines, so almost Niagara Falls. How far is that? How many kilometers? So our profiteers can get an idea of how far you ran.
In 2014, when I ran the Bruce Trail, it was 885 kilometers. If you don't take a wrong turn.
You took a wrong
If
turn.
If you don't take a wrong turn.
And then you had 50 guide runners. Now, what's a guide runner?
So when you're running and you can't see where you're going, I have 8% vision. Then a lot of the times you need someone in front of you that can call out a rock or a root or a stump or a gopher hole or a cow or whatever happens to be in front of you, a rattlesnake, that kind of thing. And because they were longer than marathons every day, we needed to have 2 runners so that they could switch off, because it gets really tiring to call out rocks and roots and be descriptive. You imagine running and the fatigue of running 50 kilometers or 48 kilometers. And on a trail, that's not a Boston pace, right? You're almost at a fast hike pace. It's a pretty slow run. It just gets mentally exhausting to run it, let alone to have to speak about all the things you're seeing along the way so that I don't trip over them. So guide runners can be for road as well. I've had guide runners in marathons and half marathons and that sort of thing. But on the Bruce Trail, I needed something a little bit more specific.
Right. So,
well, Rhonda, first of all, thank you for joining us tonight. I've been kind of looking forward to this one for a while. As an athlete, I am not a runner, but as an athlete, the difficulties of becoming an athlete to that level, just the physicality of it alone is Everest. Like, it's a mountain in and of itself. And then, you add on to this barrier of dealing with other people and putting this all together. You've obviously got a fantastic support network. You've got a group of people that are working with you to make sure that these dreams come true. How how do you foster that network? Like, it's hard enough to get a bunch of guys to go running in your local running club, let alone signing up for half marathons every day to call out stumps and gopher holes, like you were saying. What's that process like?
It took a full year for me to gather that many people that were willing to help. What I found along the way, because the whole point of doing it was to raise awareness, we really fostered this community that was willing to talk and work together and figure out the dynamics of what it takes to make a team get 900 kilometers south and not, get run over along the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it took a full year, lots of social media posting, I'm not big on an elevator pitch, but I think I talked about myself more in that year than I ever have before. And you really have to be open with people. This is what I can do. This is what I want to do. This is what I need your help to accomplish. Please, would you be part of this campaign? That sort of dialogue.
So I imagine they came to you as runners. So being a runner is not being a guide runner. So what's the transition? Like, there's training involved, I'm sure. Like, what's that look like? And how would you train someone?
In terms of guide running a marathon with, let's say, 30,000 people, it's a bit more. You can use a tether. I could hold your arm. We could talk about. I had one half marathon on a road where my guide runners all wore bells on their shoes. Like, it really depends on what you sort of need as a cue to follow. Some guide runners talk all the time. Some don't say anything other than what you need to know about where you're stepping. But these people, some of them I didn't even know, I'd never met. And they showed up the night before at a billet that we'd prearranged, which in itself was a whole find a place to sleep every night for 20 days.
Right.
And they had no idea. And we had sort of basic rules, right? Emails that would go out to the whole team before we went, and then a little bit of a dialogue the night before. But I'd be half asleep. So the dialogue would come from the previous day's guide runners. And they'd say, well, she can remember about 5 steps, right? So there's a root on the right and a rock on the left, and duck down fast, and don't go to your left because we used to call it death to the left because you're running north to south and the big drop is on the left-hand side. So literally they would be, if you can imagine walking across the road with your child, you would tell them where not to go if there was something coming or something in the way. Don't step there. That's a bad place to step. They were very tempted to tell me where I should step, right?
Right.
Yes, exactly. Right. If there was a rock on the left, they'd say right, so that I would step on the right. And I would get upset about that because it's easier for me to have to decide myself. So if they called up to 5 steps in a row and I was 2 steps behind them, I could remember that order kind of progressing depending on my level of fatigue during the day.
Yes.
And how many pairs of grumpy pants I had to put on. And, don't call things like snakes. I don't want to know. They're there, but just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get too specific. Like, I had some engineer folk that would come and they say, so slalom through the rock stone formation in front of you. And that's great. Just a little left, a little right, we're good.
Right. You don't need to know slow. Yeah, no, so it would be difficult, especially since you're just meeting them for the first time. So there's that kind of, like, you and I, we just met for the first time in the green room before the show. It's a little awkward getting to know each other. You have to trust them. Like, how do you
100%.
go from, like, we just had to do that in the green room. That's what we do to get you to kind of trust us so that we can interview you and have a good interview. But to have someone that you trust
take your life in their hands.
And like you said, I have hiked part of the Bruce Trail that you're talking about, and left is death. Like, you're not kidding. If you go left, it's a big drop.
200 feet down. Just
how do you trust someone meeting someone that quick?
I would like to say that it comes with time, but we didn't have time. I have friends that I run with on a sort of more continuous basis, and I know, like one in particular, she gets left and right mixed up all the time. So she says route right. I know she means left. But if she'd shown up that night, right, and we were going to do
Yeah.
48K the next day, it'd probably take me 10K to figure out, oh,
Right.
she actually means the other left. It's
Right.
Yeah.
As you trip over the rock.
That's right. And I've always been a swimmer as well. I have shown up at a beach and met a perfect stranger that I'd found on Twitter, tied myself to them and swam 2K in open water. I don't know that trust is a choice when you have a disability. There's always somebody willing to help, but if you don't take that leap, you're not going to get very far.
So Rhonda,
Right.
if you don't mind, if we can kind of touch on that a little bit. So have you always had limited vision, or is this something that came on later in life?
Since birth, yeah. Yeah, I was born
Since
with
birth.
no
Okay.
cones.
So I guess that would.
You're born with,
Okay.
sorry? Go ahead.
I was
Sorry, I
born with
didn't mean
no
to interrupt. We're having a
cones.
little bit of a technical delay here.
Sorry.
One more
So I
time.
was born with no cones, which means I have absolutely no color vision and no depth perception and no daytime vision. So if you can imagine driving at nighttime and you're kind of in the zone on a country road, and everything's fine, and then all of a sudden someone comes at you with their high beams on, and for those few seconds you're like, what? I can't see anything. That's me every day.
Wow.
And I don't switch to rod vision, which is where your colors are, which is where your daytime vision comes from. I don't have that ability. So I'm always like, deer in the headlights.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so you mentioned in the green room that when you first started running ultras, when you first, like, someone said to you, oh, it's too bad you can't run an ultra. And you were like, yeah, no, I can. Achilles Canada, which is rolling at the bottom here. Achilles, is that right?
Achilles, yeah.
Achilles Canada was integral in helping you start. Now, can you explain how your relationship is? Because, you've been promoting it as an advocate for disabilities. And I just think it's interesting if another athlete with a disability is watching this right now, perhaps they can garner what Achilles does so they can get help as well.
So you guys are in Peterborough, right?
That's correct.
That's where I started running, in Peterborough. There's an Achilles chapter there. And the first time I ran with them, they had 5 volunteers show up, and we just ran on the rail trail up towards the zoo. Yes. And they basically just taught, because I didn't run. I had no experience, like nothing. It was just, you don't look at a watch and test your heart rate if you can't see your watch, right? You get this perceived effort of, can I talk while I'm running? If not, then maybe my heart rate's too high. Those are the kind of things they're going to teach you, because any run group is going to talk to you about all that sort of thing. Yeah. The added bonus of the Achilles group was that they were teaching me about taking the cues from the guide runners. Oh, there's poles coming up. We have to stop and cross this road. We're going to listen for traffic here. But also, you don't have to do the listening because we're doing it for you. So that sort of trust is building, and you understand that if you can defer, all these things can be their responsibility, and you're just there to learn to run. They've been there with me every step of the way in my running life for 10 plus years. Their biggest event is in Toronto, usually St. Patrick's Day. They have a 5K run at a steam whistle where you can finish with some chili and a beer, all the best ways to run. And that's probably your best way to see what disability looks like when they're running with guide runners, because it's not just 1 or 2 disabled athletes in a crowd. There is a plethora of people that are just wearing these bibs that say, deaf runner, blind runner, or you'll see the wheelchairs out, or the people with the prosthetic legs. It's sort of an interesting environment. But to get involved with them, you can either get on their website and volunteer as a guide runner, and they would teach you some skill set, or you can find your local chapter and then see what you can do for them.
Excellent. So whether you're someone with a disability or someone without a disability, you can contact Achilles, and you can either volunteer as a guide runner. Hopefully, you're a runner already. but Achilles covers like wheelchairs, deaf, blind, limited vision, all of like it encompasses everything.
All disability. That's right.
Yeah. And who runs Achilles?
So
that would be Brian McLean. He's our
Okay.
Canadian president. And again, good person to reach out to if you have questions.
Nice. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, Rhonda, that was kind of where I was going with it as well, is that, again, with our past guests that we've had, we had one of our most recent interviews was a lovely lady, a lovely young lady. She was older than me, but that we were giving her the gears on that a little bit, but lovely young lady from Montreal who was hearing impaired. And exactly, Tufane. And she had, what is the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Interpreters. That's because I could come up with that on the split second, right? Yeah. So she had interpreters, and now she has built an organization that focused on the arts, right? Slightly different, being able to incorporate people into the arts. Whereas what you're doing here with the athletics, I think is fantastic. And an organization like Achilles, is it an international organization? I see that we have Achilles Canada, but this is all around the world.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different groups you can get. Running Team with a Vision is usually big at Boston Marathon. You'll see lots of them there. There are definitely different groups in different parts of the States that work together. And I believe that there's a big group in the UK as well, but I'm unfamiliar with the name.
Nice. So Rhonda, the Boston Marathon just happened on Monday, I believe it was. It was a rainy, cold day. Not the greatest, well, maybe the greatest day for running. I don't know. It depends on who you are. I like running in that. So you ran the Boston Marathon, which is no small order because there are like so many people that run that. So what were the complications? When did you run it? And what were the complications for someone who had a guide? And did you have multiple guides? Like, tell us about your Boston experience, because it's such a great race and it would be so challenging because there are so many people involved in that race.
Definitely a very busy event. Yeah. The year that I was there was 2013.
Okay.
And then I went back in 2014 to finish. Nice. Because I didn't get to finish in 2013. One guide, you're allowed one guide. So the cutoff times have changed the qualifying times have changed for vision impaired runners. They have different categories of what level of vision you have. So like a B1 has no vision at all, and a B2 would have 2 or 3%, like light perception and motion. And a B3, which is what I would have, is anything under 10% to about 2 or 3%. And based on that categorization, now I think there's no way I'd ever get there, because it's like 3 hours and 49 minutes or something, and I can't run a marathon that fast. But at the time, I had to do a marathon in under 5 hours. So it was easy enough to get that done. And when I went, there was one guide runner with me each time that I was there. And there's definitely, like I said, Team with a Vision. They've got a whole program set up for the vision impaired athletes that take part. They have a special tent at the start finish so that you can wait. They have a breakfast where you can meet all the other vision impaired athletes. That was wonderful. The race itself, I mean, it's probably the only race that I've held on to my guide for more than just around a corner or through a busy street, because there's just so much noise. I mean, those girls screaming are awesome and all, but I don't know where I'm supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, no, it would be because there are so many people starting. Like, so I've been in a couple of I've been in one half marathon, a couple of 5s and 10s, and I'm not vision impaired, but I still find it overwhelming because there are slow people, there's fast people, there's people walking, there's people that are on the sidelines for some reason, will step in front of you to take a picture. And there's dogs, and there's so much going on. I just can't imagine on the Boston Marathon level, which is even like it would be 40 times anything I've ever experienced. You would really have to trust your guide. Now, is your guide someone who comes with you?
It can be. They will
Right.
provide you with a guide if you don't have one. Depends on your level of need for speed,
Right.
which I didn't have, so I brought guides with me.
I love that.
And sorry, I have one more question before Pat takes over here. So my friends have been in the Boston Marathon. The group that I run with is called Runner's Life in Peterborough here, and they have to qualify. So they have to do I believe they have to qualify in so many races to be able to make it to the Boston Marathon. Is that the same?
Yeah. So when I went, my qualifying time was 5 hours, just under 5 hours. So I did Road to Hope in Hamilton and
Right.
finished like 4:53 or something and got
Right.
my qualifying time. And then because 2013 was not a good time to run, we were able to register again in 2014. So I got to go back. But
Nice.
you only have to have one race where you qualify to be able to run. But my time now would not be something I could attain. And if you ever felt like going to the Boston Marathon, you could do so as a guide, right? You have to find the right runner.
That is true. I never thought of it. That is true. Yeah, no, and as I get older, my time increases. Like I couldn't run in the time that you just said. That's pretty impressive. I don't know. I've never run a marathon before, so I'm not sure. But
Yes.
it sounds impressive to me, the time, the 4:53 you said?
Yeah.
That's impressive to me. So the guide that you're with, they're running beside you. You said they're holding your arm.
No, I'm holding their arm.
You're holding their arm.
Yeah.
And you have to be in lock pace. So does that mean you pick the runner and you have the same pace, or they just learn how to pace with you? Like, is this something you learn on the way, or because just running beside someone is difficult, let alone running linked with someone, because you're
And I'm going to complicate it further. If you were running beside me,
yes,
we didn't have to tether with a buff or a tea towel or whatever. We didn't have to hold on like that. Every time you talk to me, I would be very, very specific that you couldn't turn your head towards me because your guide cues have to come from the same direction. So if we're running side by side and there's a roadkill in front of us and you turn to me to say, "Oh, watch out."
Right.
All right, run right into it. But that means that every bit of our conversation, you have to be face forward so that never changes. That's my personal need. Like there's a lot of different, but then on a trail, I have to be right behind you and follow where your foot lands, which kind of works for me. You're one, clearing the cobwebs away, and two, finding all the holes before I do.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a very tall person, so I get that. I clear the cobwebs for everybody when I'm ahead. So you mentioned tomorrow.
So Rhonda, you decided to run.
Go ahead, Pat.
We got just enough of a delay that it's making it kind of fun here. So Rhonda, you were saying that you decided to run the Bruce Trail. Why? like I get the Boston Marathon, I get the marathons, I get that challenge, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, let's go out in the middle of nowhere, Ontario, up and down hills, trails, gopher holes, as you so politely put that. I think that's a fantastic way of putting that. And then you're like, hey, let's do this. Was there nothing, like, what were you thinking?
I don't think I was. The first trail race I ever did was a 24-hour event. It was an 8K loop up in Mansfield. At the time, my kids were really young. I was in school and trying to accomplish all the things on very little sleep. And I really just wanted a full day where I could go into the forest and run and not have to do the dishes and not have to answer to mom and not have to, any of the things, which I think you'll find a common thread there with any ultra trail runner. They love that peace.
Right.
And while I was at that event, there was talk about a gentleman a boy really, who was running the Bruce Trail for hospital funding up in, I think, Orangeville. So Cody was his name. And, you know, he's a 20-0, built like a truck, ready to conquer the world. And everybody's like, oh, I wonder if he can finish. And why can't he? He's completely abled. He has all the training in the world. Every ability that I don't, where's the doubt? And then I kept saying, like, if this was a disabled person, your conversation would be a little different. And there's nothing worse than throwing that out and then having to back it up. So
Right.
how it started.
Yeah.
I'd never seen Bruce. I'd never stepped foot on it. I had no idea. Zero clue what was going on.
Yeah, because then you kind of whisper over exactly how far is it? It's like almost 900 kilometers. You go, shit.
What did I sign up to? So you had never stepped on the Bruce Trail before? Because I had, like I said, I've hiked the Bruce Trail, and it's an impressive trail just to hike. Like it's quite high up at some points. Like there's cliff sides at some points, and it's a beautiful trail. I recommend everyone hike it, but I just can't imagine running it. Like even today, I just, no part of me desires to run it. But so now you've moved on, like ultra running, I'm done. I checked that off my list. But you mentioned that you still are an advocate for people with disabilities. So in what ways now are you advocating for people with disabilities?
So my last ultra event, I ran Vol State, which is completely across the state of Tennessee. You have 10 days, and it's in July, so the heat of the summer. And again, I did that to raise funds and awareness for Achilles Canada. And I chose to do that with, have you ever used Run Go?
No.
The app? So it speaks in your ear, tells you which way to go. So I did not have a guide runner. In this event, you can do it in two different ways. You can do it crewed or screwed. So crewed, there's somebody following with food and water and, you know, maybe first aid. And if you're screwed, you just have what's on your back for 314 miles.
Wow.
Of highway with big mother trucks and like crazy ass back.
You can swear. I forgot to tell you that, Rhonda. If you want to swear, go ahead. That's all right.
Because if you won't, I will. That's fucking crazy, Rhonda.
It's crazy. And 10 million dead armadillos for you to smell before you step over. Anyways, that was my last ultra running event. At mile 200, I knew that I had broken my right ankle. And it was for Achilles. It was for creating community. It was to draw a voice for disability in sport. I had been given this chance to run this event without a guide runner, and the race director was aware of the inherent risks in that. And I didn't want to let anyone down. So the combination of the broken ankle and the stress fracture that came after the broken ankle and the 100 miles after that, I don't have any cartilage left in my right ankle, so I don't run.
I just want to pause for a second, Rhonda. Okay. So you ran 200 kilometers.
Miles.
Sorry, miles. I'm a kilometer guy. Miles. So you ran 200 miles, which is way more than 200 kilometers. You broke your ankle. And then you ran how much more?
Another 114 miles.
On a broken ankle.
Do you eat nails for breakfast?
Bacon.
Bacon.
Bacon. I'm gonna start eating bacon.
That's clearly it. Rhonda, you're okay. So first of all, as a guy, you know, athlete in my past, not that now. When I'm on the treadmill doing like my 15-minute cardio, and I'm at like, you know, 8 minutes, and I'm like halfway through, right? Like a little over halfway, and I'm dying.
Ready to die because it's awful.
Right. And you're like 200 miles halfway there. What does that, like, that drive, that determination, what do you do in your personal life? Like when I said about eating nails in the morning, like there must just be random things in your life that just, I'm not letting that beat me. Obviously the Bruce Trail was one of them. But like that's a fortified soul. to be able to just be like, I'm not doing it?
I feel like, again, we as a society undercut disability and its possibilities.
Amazing.
And yes, there are programs and avenues for help, and you might be able to survive if you do nothing and live on a disability pension, but you're not going to thrive. You're not going to have a place in society. You will always be marginalized. You will always be put to the side, and you will always suffer some kind of inherent otherness that comes from different people's labeling and misunderstanding of what that means and what you can do with your life. When you're lost in the middle of a state, you have no idea where you are on a map, and there's nothing more in your life that you want than a cold glass of water and to sit the fuck down for 5 seconds, and that one guardrail that you want to sit on has a copperhead coiled up on it. I mean, your choice is to call in the cavalry and say, I'm done. You were right. I can't do anything. I'm not a whole person. I'm not good enough for all of this. Or let's fucking go. So,
Rhonda, your mama and daddy must have raised you something fierce, because
Yeah.
you've got that fight in you. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And
I'm
Matt,
gonna
you are
say
so
that
right. Sorry?
sorry. I'm just all excited all of a sudden. I'm going
Yeah.
to say that there are hardcore athletes. I can't think of any right now. Give me a runner, Pat. You know all the runners.
Oh yeah, all the
That
runners.
if they broke their ankle in the middle of a race and there was a copperhead, they just go, I'm out. So, like, to say that, oh, I'm just determined. There's a little bit more than that, but I kind of get it. I think what you're trying to say, Rhonda, is that you've been struggling since you're born. That everything you do, from waking up to brushing your teeth in the morning, everything has been a hurdle. So when it comes to hurdles, you already have that iron inside you that you're never ever going to let anything back. And I think Pat's probably right. You probably had parents that like encouraged you to like never ever hold you back. I'm not sure. I'm just jumping here.
Or you were raised by wolves. It's either one or the other.
Or wolves.
There's
Or
no in the middle.
Yeah.
I was definitely raised by wolves.
There you go.
Good.
I
Wolves
love
are
it.
good. Yeah. So
That's good.
okay, so you're in the middle of the trail, you've broken your ankle, you're gonna run still. Does anyone else know that you
That
have
it's
broken?
broken?
Yes. I feel like if anyone else knew, they'd be like, Rhonda, no.
Do you want to tell her no? I don't want to tell her no. I'm not telling her no. There's no goddamn way I'm telling Rhonda no. She'll hit you.
I think they knew that it was sore because that's all I let on, right? It's bothering me.
Yeah.
It's giving me some feedback.
Right.
Feedback.
But, okay. Some feedback.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I could see that, Pat. Like, they're probably like, do you want to tell her? No, I'm not telling her. You go tell her. Nope. Guess she's running.
Yeah. Insurance ain't covering this. You tell her. I ain't tell her. You tell her.
Nope.
Not a thing.
Go ahead. It's all good.
Yeah.
So
Rhonda,
that run, you lost the cartilage in your ankle. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So running career done. And that's
Yes.
why you're no longer an ultra runner. And you've segued into something else. Now what are you doing?
So now it's a little more low key, at least for now. I've roped a couple of friends into doing weight training with me, and that works out well. So one of my training partners, he is training for an ultra, but there's always cross training. So I'm the cross training bully. I get people to come over and flip my tractor tire with me when the weather's better, and build strength and get ready for their own events. But really it's self-serving because they can tell me if I'm going to hit something in the backyard with the sledgehammer, right? It's helpful. Right. When I go to the gym, I bring a person with me that can tell me where the weights are, tell me what weight we did before, and reading those tiny little numbers with the pins. It's nearly impossible for me. And I think on its own level, that creates an awareness with the front desk staff that sees you walk in with the white cane, the person that comes with you. If you came to my practice for a massage, you would never know that I'm vision impaired. In my house, in my environment, I'm very competent and very familiar with every step and every obstacle. So it's really difficult to tell. But when I'm out in an unknown environment, it's way more obvious what disability struggles with and how it fights to fit in, to blend in, and you put on this brave face and you just kind of walk along, and then all of a sudden you're smack right face against the weight machine, and they're like, why don't you take my arm and we'll go this way?
Right.
So
And
you
then
come at it, Rhonda, with like a very interesting perspective. And again, I don't have, a sight issue. So I come, very naive and ignorant of the process. But these little things that we take for granted, and you're like, hey, why did you walk me into the weight room and run me right into the bench press? Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you. But you do it with this big smile, right? It goes back to that attitude, that ultra attitude where you're like, 100%, you're right. You have to. But that, James and I talk a lot about raising families and raising children in the society that we have right now. And your attitude is sorely missed by so many people. And it's a very big reason to why we started Soaring Profits, is to be able to really interview fantastic, amazing people and show people that you think you got problems, you think that your day was wrong, somebody cut you off in your car and gave you the finger, and you're going to lose it for the day, and you can't cope and you can't manage. Honey, there's more out there, right? And you do it with such a passion and an enthusiasm. I think it's fantastic. I love your story. And now, in the green room when we were talking, you're jumping in the pool tomorrow morning, and you're doing what?
Tomorrow, so I'm working with another friend of mine to prepare for a 5K open water swim in the Welland.
Because why not?
We joke about, when are we going to swim across Lake Ontario? And I said, when they let you do with wetsuits, because I'll freeze to death otherwise. So tomorrow
that's the only obstacle, Pat, is that it's cold.
It's
right.
freezing.
Yeah.
What a wimp.
For me and you, it's like, I just don't want to swim that far. But for her, it's because it's chilly. I'm just pointing that out. So you're in the morning with this person training for a 5K race. Where's the race?
Welland Canal.
Oh, the Welland Canal. Yeah. My kids did a rowing race there. It's a very beautiful city. Yeah.
You mean they were in a boat? What losers?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a long canal, so there's a lot of paddling. Yeah. So where do you train? Like, are you training in open water right now?
We're going to the YMCA tomorrow. We do have open water swimming starting in May, where we'll go twice a month to a different open water. And we have people rowing in a boat for spotters, which is awesome. But it's a challenge for us because the time limit on this race is 2.5 hours, and we are to the minute on this training so far. And every time we get there and I say, we got to just pick it up, it'll be fine.
I got a sneaking feeling that you're probably going to do okay. Like, I don't think that you're going to let it beat you. Just the short little time that I've had some conversations with you, I think there's going to be like the last 100 meters and you just kick it into gear, and I think you're probably going to be fine.
Then it'll be me dragging the guide instead of us swimming side by side.
That's
right. Exactly. No.
Well, how does the guide work in the water?
Oh, so in the pool, we just swim side by side. And that's actually, we've been doing that for about a year now. And I really have tuned into what side he's going to breathe on first, so my stroke can match, that kind of thing. Because you don't want to end up with a face full of water every time.
So you are tandem doing this? Like, you're tied together?
We're tied together with resistance bands, like the stretchy elastic bands. They'll be around our waists. And we have maybe 8 feet between us as a max for a big pull. Yeah. One of the things we haven't yet practiced, because we haven't gotten out to open water, is the signaling, because running is great. Oh, look, there's a rock. Oh, look, there's
Right.
a branch.
Blub, blub,
In the
blub,
water,
blub, blub, blub.
exactly. You can't
Yeah.
talk and breathe. Your face is in the water. This is serious swimming, not just puddling along. So we're going to have to establish like 2 tugs is go faster. 1 tug, I'm drowning, something specific so that we can get through this.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but that was hilarious. 1 tug, I'm drowning.
When you get into
my
the
God.
Morse code of tugs, that means I'm done. I'm toast.
But-
Yeah, I'm not blowing
So I have
bubbles.
friends that do race swimming. They do triathlons and stuff, and they talk about in the swimming pool it's dangerous.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
swimming pool, but in the open water it's dangerous because you have hundreds of people, and they're all like, they say in some cases people swim over you.
Try having them swim over your tether. That's freaking crazy, man.
No. Was that 1 tug?
Crocodile roll and like,
So you've done this before. So you've had that feeling before.
yes, I've done
just-
triathlons before with tethered swimmers. Not this
Okay.
swimmer, but other swimmers.
Wow. No, it's just impressive. Like everything you're talking about is impressive. And so this person who is swimming with you is, I guess the term I'll use is able-bodied or doesn't have a disability.
Right.
It's just someone who are they through Achilles Canada as well? Or is this
No,
someone who randomly met on Instagram?
this guy used to guide for me when I was running.
Okay.
And then after my ankle, there was a whole spiral of stupid mental health. Losing ultra running was like losing my best friend.
Oh, yeah.
And I think in terms of trying to cheer me up, he said, well, what can we do? And all I could think was, all you do is talk. So let's do something where you can't talk. So I
Be like swimming with me.
That is the best thing I've heard all day.
That's a fantastic line.
Something where you can't talk. That's what my friends want. So don't talk to my friends at all because they'll have me in a pool.
go swimming.
Right. So Rhonda, you are a massage therapist, RMT, correct?
Yes.
Right. So this obviously started your love of the physical nature of activity and understanding the body and the kinetic nature of how we work. This started at a young age, I imagine, to jump into that
hell
career.
no.
No. Okay.
I started running when I took the massage therapy program at Fleming.
Okay.
Just needed something so that while I used to tape my notes, right? Because you have to study and memorize all the muscles, all the ligaments, all the bones, all the everything. And I would go to the gym and listen to them. Or I'd get on the elliptical and I'd listen to them. Because I had 3 little kids when I was trying to balance everything, and every waking minute was, the baby would be going to sleep and I'd be like, T1, T2, T3, where's the trap attachment? And the baby would wake up because I'd been tickling him, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So no, I would say maybe 15 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
kind of
Obviously, it's something that you're
have some
very
free
passionate
time.
about.
Kind of a way to have some free time, some quiet time. So we have a delay, so I don't know what's going on. Normally, it's not like this. So you were talking about the mental health piece when you lost running. So I cannot even possibly, and I'm not trying to understand. Like I'm not trying to say my story is like your story in any way. So don't take that way. But I had this injury where I hurt my hip, and so I just got into running. I think it was 6 months in. I did this 5K race, and I thought I was all that. And when I came back to training, I ran at 5K race speed because I was stupid. And I hurt my hip, off for 3 weeks. I was devastated that I couldn't run. It was the weirdest feeling ever. I went from not wanting to run at all to like every day going, this is the worst. I can't run. And, like I didn't really understand how that run every day like really solidified my mind. Like there's all this time that you can think, that you can process, the energy, the endorphins, all of that stuff is all part of running. Like you really, at the end of a run, you're on a high. at the end of the run, you've really, like, if you had a problem that day, you really have solved the problem in your brain because you have that time to think and process. So I get
definitely
that.
having some
You're
time.
obviously not listening to a guide runner.
No, I'm
What do you
not.
mean you have time to think? Think about not lying. Left foot, step over. Right foot. Oh my God, neck.
Right. Yes. Like I said, I don't know your journey at all, so I don't get that. But I was just talking about the mental health piece. So, how did you, like? I know that your friend, obviously, when her friend was like, "Okay, well, we have to do something else." But how did you work out your mental journey? Like, because you mentioned that it was very, like, you went from ultra running, you couldn't ultra run anymore, so you had some mental health issues. How did you recover from that, like the work wise?
Well, counseling. Definitely couldn't have done any of it without having my husband listen. I think that's key. Most of the time, we just bottle it up and try and overcome it. You can do that with a lot of bullshit, but there comes a point where you just have to talk. My husband is an ultra runner, so he understood the whole I need this for my soul side of things.
Yeah.
And we adopted cats.
How many cats exactly does it take to fill an ultra void? She looks embarrassed by the number.
When did your husband exactly say, the cats have to stop?
So we have 6 cats.
Oh my God. Wow.
5 was the number, though. 5 is what fills an ultra void in your life. 5 cats.
Yeah. But 6 was like,
much.
honey, we have to swim. That's what happened there. When 6 happened, that's when he was like, okay, honey.
Yeah, Mittens was get in the pool.
Yeah, that's right.
The gym membership's cheaper.
Otherwise, we have to get you a tinfoil hat or something, because that's amazing. That's wild. So do you still have 6 cats? Nice.
Yeah.
The pet that keeps on giving.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of cats.
Well, I have to say, Rhonda, you have an incredible story. Like, from start to finish, you're ultra running, and the fact that you never give up and you just keep going. You have a successful business. Now, is your business out of your home?
Yes.
Right. So that's where you feel most comfortable, like you said. So the people who come in don't necessarily know that you have limited sight. So do your clients, like, if someone wanted to be a client, wanted to get because you're a masseuse, right?
Oh, I'm a massage therapist.
Massage therapist. Okay. So different. I'm not sure what the difference is. Maybe you could explain. Massage therapist versus a masseuse.
One is registered, and
Okay.
the other one's downtown somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if you were going to go with that, but I love you did. That's fantastic.
I didn't know there was a difference. Apparently, I don't get out. I did.
Apparently, you go to the one downtown.
No, I go to RMTs. So obviously, you're RMT. But if someone wanted to contact you, you have a website or something like that, or you just do word of mouth?
My practice is currently full. But I do have a Facebook page, Park Massage Therapy, and the link for booking is there.
Okay, and you're in Kitchener?
I'm in Kitchener. So I serve the
So
Tri-Cities.
Perfect. We are heading down to Guelph for the weekend. We should have booked. What were we thinking?
You should have booked.
Yeah, we should have booked.
Yeah.
We should have booked. We're going to be down there.
We'll be there soon, so maybe we'll get on Facebook. We'll try to book one.
There you go. Yeah.
To meet 6 cats.
To meet 6 cats.
Like, do the clients get to play with the cats and stuff? Like, sorry, I'm just.
They see them on the way in and the way out.
Yeah.
Depending on the day, there'll be like tunnels, and they might be out in the catio. They might like be on their little hamster wheel thing. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well,
catio.
Rhonda,
I
you've
love
been an
that.
absolute
That's good.
pleasure. I appreciate you. So unfortunately, her business is full right now, but if you keep an eye out, maybe there'll be some openings. It has been a great pleasure. If you're an athlete who happens to have a disability, I encourage you to see achillescanada.ca. There's a lot of, I checked it out myself, a lot of helpful information there. Or if you just want to volunteer, maybe you're a runner or a swimmer or whatever you do, and you want to help someone who has a disability, I think that would be amazing. So Rhonda, right now, so what we do at the end, we'll wrap up here because we're getting close to that hour. What we do at the end here is we kind of do a sign off. I'll do a sign off, and then I have a saying that I say at the end of every show. Pat will do his little talk, and then he has a sign off at the end of his show, and then it's you. You get to tell us words of inspiration. I hate McDonald's. Whatever you want, you can say it and tell people what you're thinking. Rhonda, I just want to thank you for coming. This was so much fun. Like the laughs that we got out of it, the fact that you are so inspiring. Like I am never ever going to complain that my leg hurts ever again because I have never ran on a broken anything. And the fact that there are days when I'm running and I'm like, oh, my knee's a little sore. No, I'm a wuss. I'm done. It's over. I'm never ever going to complain again. That is amazing. You're an incredible woman, and I just want to thank you for sharing your story. Please go check out achillescanada.ca and don't be limited. Obviously, Rhonda is living proof that if someone says no to you, it's just because they don't know what you can accomplish. And Rhonda has already accomplished great things, and you can too. So please get out there and try your best. There's people out there to help you, and I think it's wonderful. Let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
Rhonda, what can I say more than what James has said? But thank you so much for joining us tonight. When I kind of heard your story earlier in the week, it was kind of a profound one because I lived in the Collingwood area for a long time, and that landscape is pretty unforgiving. And when I hear that run that you did, and with 8% vision, to me that is just unfathomable. And I'm really proud of you. I think it's a fantastic thing that you've done. That chewing nails for breakfast clearly has been working out. Those wolves that raised you, they must have clicked something there for you. So yeah. You're an inspiration to people, this next generation, that all too often are told how great they are and win the awards for not really doing a whole lot. And then on the other side of the coin, when you have somebody that is like, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. You'll never be able to do that. And you go, oh, yeah, I love that. I think that determination is so powerful, and you're a testament to that. So I thank you for coming on here. I thank you for your story. And for those of you, the Profiteers out there that are out here watching this, whatever you take out of this conversation tonight, you can do it tomorrow. You can wake up tomorrow, whatever it is, whether it's, running like James is doing, whether it be your personal finances and your wealth and what you're trying to build and develop. It's just get up and do it. Put one foot in front of the other, get it going, get it started, get it rolling. You'll smell your dillo. She told you, right? You're going to see it. You're going to smell it. As always, folks, I thank you so much for joining us tonight. Rhonda, again, thank you. And for me, let's make some money together. Rhonda, the last word, send us out.
Thanks so much for having me on. This has been a blast. I think the only thing left for me to say is believe in your damn self.
Nice.